the automated classroom capture, I've been using it for about 3 years. I guess this was my third complete year, and I found it absolutely wonderful. The students loved the fact that the room was set up for capturing the lecture. They felt that it was very, very easy to interact with myself and the material. I personally found the equipment quite easy to get used to. I must admit I did get some help initially, and the help came promptly. Problem solving was easily done, and overall my experience was excellent. I also found it quite convenient to be able to stop the recording whenever I wanted to, if I wish to answer questions that the students may have, and then restart it as the need arose.
I had a very good experience in all the times I used it, and I found the service very self-intuitive. It was very easy to use. There was also a great service attached to it, which was the one delivered by IT services. All the personnel was ready to help in indicating how to make it used for the first time, and then assist you in any of the steps that would follow. So it was absolutely plain sailing and straightforward.
I found the experience fantastic, to be honest. I was motivated to use it because I had a student who, for medical reasons, couldn't attend physically in class. And then it turned out to be a benefit to all the students, and I found it really worked. In essence, I didn't find it changed the delivery of my lectures much. In some instances it did. So in most of my lectures, I use a model brain. And in the past, of course, this is a small model, and in the past I would have to either send it around the class. When you have a class of 200 people, this obviously doesn't really work very well. So in that sense, it made it far easier for me to use the visualizer in the lecture hall and be able to point out the brain structures I'm talking about. In that sense, it helps a lot. But in anything else, it didn't really change my delivery at all, so it's kind of simplified things. One thing you could say changes the delivery, that when you have students asking questions and you want that to be captured, you need to hand around the microphone, or in my case, I simply repeated the question. But I mean, it's a trivial detail, really.
The service influenced, I believe, positively the way I delivered the lecture, in a way that it would prompt me to, perhaps knowing that there was a capturing and a video going on, prompted me to prepare a bit better. So I believe it was a good pressure in order to hopefully elevate the standards of and delivering of the lectures.
Certainly, you prepare a bit better. You're a bit more careful because you know that this lecture now is going to be recorded. But one good thing also about it is that it also allows you to look at yourself lecturing. So when you are editing or reviewing it before letting the video go live, go on the VLE, you can judge yourself. Well, I could have explained this better. Maybe I didn't understand the student's question, and so on. And sometimes, in fact, a little bit once or twice in the next lecture. But then, by the way, I mean, when I explained that yesterday to you or last week, I should have said this.
I think the main benefits for students, quite honestly, is that they can watch it or listen to it again and again. It has been my experience that the majority of students, in fact, don't do that, but the weaker ones do.
The main benefits for students, obviously there's the obvious one that when students, for whatever reason, are unable to attend a lecture, even for legitimate reasons, they can catch up on that. But also they can listen to it again. And I have found it a particular benefit actually now that there were unfortunately a few students who needed to reset, and they could simply go back in terms of revision, and some students I noticed also used it for revision before the exam the first time round as well.
I think one main benefit is note-taking. I think one difficulty with anybody attending lectures is that you have to understand what the lecturer is saying, but also take some notes, because you're not going to remember everything when you go back home. But while you're taking down notes, you might be missing the next thing the lecturer is saying. I used to tell them, look, I mean, just sit back, don't take any notes except maybe write down one or two remarks which you really want to highlight, because this evening or tomorrow morning you can go watch the lecture again and write down all the notes at your convenience.
The lecture capturing happens to be in newly restructured rooms. They're very comfortable. There are all the facilities you need to recharge your phone. There are USB facilities available. The rooms are ergonomic. They smell nice. They look nice. So it's a very nice environment to have a lecture in.
I didn't notice much of a difference in terms of attendance. Of course, there were always a few students, even in the past, who did not attend, and it's the same ratio who did not attend once the lectures were available on the VLE.
So I couldn't see any decrease in the number of students attending the lectures.
I didn't find any difficulty. I had classes from the fourth year. Those are small classes, 20 students each. So you would notice there are absentees. But then I had classes in the second and third year, which are more numerous, at the 540, something like that. But I don't think there were any students who missed lectures on purpose because they knew that they could watch the video. They had the advantage, of course, that if they were sick or they had to miss a lecture because of unforeseen circumstances, they could watch it.
I found it extremely useful, and I would encourage any other colleague at your university to use it, even as a pilot, to then extend it to all the other courses.
One thing which I would like to do next is experiment a bit with a different type of lecture. For example, experiment a bit with the flipped classroom, where you record lectures beforehand. Then you ask the students to look at the lectures, and in class you do discussion of the lectures. You do tutorials about the lectures, or you solve problems resulting from the lectures. I would also like to try and maybe record a few lectures which have some general principles, which might even be common to more than one course which I give. It doesn't mean that I'll be adding more content to the course. It will mean that I am adding more aid for them to understand that content. I
also personally found it useful because I could then reuse my tutorial time in a much more constructive way. Because I felt I didn't have to repeat myself, I could lead them to the website and say, well, the material is there, please watch it again and come back and we will discuss these questions that you have now.
Very easy to use. In fact, anyone who's used a computer essentially should have absolutely no problem in using it. Very intuitive. So I would heartily recommend it, actually.